Aloha and welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii's Reaching Out. My name is Neenz Feleafine. I'm excited to be here and thank you all for joining us. I have a very exciting guest today. He's somebody that came across my radar, and when I started doing my research, I found even more connections. His name is Ho'ala Greevy. He is the CEO of Paubox and the CEO and founder of two software companies based here in Hawaii. He is also the current world record holder for catching the biggest, heaviest fine scale triggerfish at 16 pounds, 4 ounces using his kayak off of Kaena Point. Please welcome Ho'ala Greevy.
Hi, Neenz. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I just mentioned, in doing my research, I found some other things in common and some local traditions, right? The first thing is that we're both McKinley High School graduates.
Tiger Team Pride.
Mighty Tigers, and for all of you, my friends that are watching out there, you know how important that is to me and how proud I am to represent that. I know that you graduated in '94, and I wanted you to share a little bit about how you participate in the McKinley High School Foundation.
Okay. Yeah, I used to be on the board. Due to work commitments, I had to step down. But I was on the board for about 4 or 5 years. And during that time, we revamped our website, get some new blood on the board. Brought a couple of my friends in that were my classmates. And then we also started a class of '94 scholarship for the McKinley Foundation. And we've branched it off, so now with each graduating class, we have a 4-year recipient, and then we created a 2-year recipient for the class of '94. And we try our best to keep in touch with these guys.
Yeah. So I know that there's some McKinley graduates out there watching now. So can you give me some of the qualifications or for that scholarship? Because I have a lot of classmates whose children, and I know I'm going to show my age here, are getting ready to graduate from McKinley as well.
Right.
And so what is the opportunity that they have?
So there's several categories for our McKinley High School Foundation scholarships. Naturally, the Danny Noy Scholarship tends to take the highest dollar amount and prestige, and so we're a couple rungs below that, and we tend to target, as far as the class of '94 scholarship goes, maybe not the highest GPA, but some kind of extracurricular activity, maybe look at the family situation, things like that. And we're trying to get the scholarship to be run in perpetuity, so we're constantly in fundraising mode. The foundation is a 501c3, so all donations we get are tax deductible. And I think we're one of the few public schools with a foundation set up specifically for college scholarships in Hawaii.
Yes, and for those of you watching, basically what you're saying is you're looking for kids that have the desire to go to college or further their education, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be highest GPA or just kind of involved in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, my personal belief is in our society today, your ticket out is a college education. So, that's something I'm pretty interested in doing.
Yeah, right on. You've inspired me, class of '88, and now everybody can do the math, to get my classmates to do something. I know a lot of my classmates have gone back to volunteer through coaching, through other kind of mentor programs. However, this is a great idea to get involved with the foundation.
Yeah, and easy way to start is if you're having any kind of reunion. So when we had our 15-year reunion, we had a little raffle drawing, and the excess funds from the reunion itself, we poured it straight into our McKinley Foundation Class of '94 scholarship. So, I mean, everybody likes to get together for reunions. So
sure.
If you're thinking of kicking that off, it's a good time to do it.
Sure. Okay, so count on the class of '88 to get organized and actually participate.
Yeah, sure.
With foundation.
So 2014, 2015. Yeah, you guys will figure it out.
Yeah, we have a little bit of time. I think we just did our 25th anniversary.
Right on.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about how McKinley kind of shaped us.
Yeah, I think so.
Their traditions and instilling just kind of an inspiration for what we want.
Yeah, I think I'm sure the first week you're there, it gets grounded into you.
Yes.
You walk on the oval, you get almost in a fight. You walk in the Hall of Honor, you see all these household names up on their framed pictures. And I remember that was one of the first goals I can remember was like damn, I want to be up there.
Yeah, in the
Hall of
Fame.
Honor,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Hall of Honor.
At the McKinley, so.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know that are just tuning in, McKinley is one of the state of Hawaii's oldest schools, and we have this tradition. If you've driven by the campus, you've seen that there is an oval with the statue of President McKinley there. And the tradition is not to walk on the oval until you've actually graduated. So part of our graduation ceremonies is to walk across, and within our auditorium are pictures of a lot of the community leaders that nearly everyone is familiar with, you know, from Senator Dan Inouye to our chief of police. And they line the halls, and it gives inspiration and hope to a lot of students that go there. So even for myself, you know, I said, like, one of these days, you know, I want my picture up on that wall.
Yeah, for example, if you walk into the Waialae Country Club, one of the first pieces of art you'll see in that walkway is by John Young, and he's a McKinley grad. And one of the first pictures you'll see when you walk into the Pacific Club is another John Young. So, you know, this guy, people see him at first glance, they think it's somebody from Europe. I mean, the quality of his art is that caliber. And that's just another McKinley grad that's, you know, done incredible things. That's a part
and
of
his
the
roots
community.
started
Yeah.
right there on South King Street.
Yeah.
Where our roots started. So hopefully one day our work will be someplace in hanging in some, maybe a virtual museum.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about too, we can't have a conversation with you or an interview with you without mentioning your parents.
Okay.
I've heard of your dad, Ed Greevy, and am familiar with his work. In fact, a lot of his work is part of my own teachings. He is a famous photographer that has documented pretty much the sovereignty movement in Hawaii as long as he's been alive, and has, I was telling you, he's sort of like the social media 1.0, where he's just a photographer. You know, he could have been, he must be awesome on Instagram if he ever decides to choose to be there.
Yeah.
Except, like, tell me, did you ever tag along with him to his events, or?
Yeah, sometimes I went, but he never really pressed it on me to be at these things. When I was a little kid, I can't even remember, but I'm in some of the pictures. But yeah, he just came here on a surf trip, never left, hooked up with Uncle John Kelly, who founded Save Our Surf with Auntie Marion Kelly, and he said, hey, you know, Uncle John, John, he's like, you're taking the pictures and you're doing the speech, so I can take the pictures and you can focus on the speech. And then it kind of spun out of that, and then yeah, for the next 40 years, he's got this record of high quality photographs, most of them black and white, of things that happened that, you know, a lot of times he was the only guy with a camera. So, you know, I think he's just come out with his second book, came out a couple weeks ago, and I think for that genre of political movements that eventually led to the Hawaiian sovereignty movement, you know, he's the guy. So I think that's kind of exciting.
I call him the social media 1.0 because when people ask me, like, what is social media, I always tell them, like, it empowers people to tell the story that traditional media is unable to tell, maybe because there's not enough resources or it just doesn't fit into what producers want at that time. And so your dad gained the trust of the people, and they allowed him to tell their story, you know, through his photographs. You know, that has, you know, years later, decades later, he's still educating the rest of us, like people.
Yeah, he's still doing events. Yeah, yeah. I know one of the cool things about my dad when he'd take pictures at stuff like this, he just has this way. I don't know how he does it, because he's got 3 to 4 cameras strapped around his chest, but he just has a way of disappearing and just blending into the wall, and then people forget he's there after a few minutes, and you know, he just does his thing. So
and they just let him film.
Yeah, kind of neat.
Right on. And I was very surprised. So I knew who your father was. I was very surprised to learn who your mom was, because I've known her since I was a young girl.
Yeah.
And pretty much grew up probably right outside her office, you know, for so many years, and then actually got to work with her on different projects and supporting the residents. She's the VP of programs at Parents and Children Together, and for a long time, my own dad was the president of the board, you know, back in the day, and when he was a manager at Kuhio Park Terrace. And for me, I just was a kid running around and having fun, and didn't realize where I was, you know.
It's kind of scary back then.
You know, except I was very comfortable, and I felt comfortable and safe, and, you know, didn't know better. Everybody was cool, you know.
Yeah, my mom has very nice things to say about your dad, and when this gets on YouTube, I'll make sure it's one click and she can watch it. She'll be very happy.
When it gets on YouTube, I'm gonna have to have like a whole tutorial for my dad, so that he can watch it together. And so, tell me about like how like, your parents work. You know, your mom's a social worker. Your dad, I call him a storyteller. You know, a storyteller of what's happening in activism in Hawaii. You know, what did you pick up from them?
Jeez. I think I would say my dad is an artist. There's no doubt about that. He's retired from insurance, but you know his thing is photography, and I consider in art what he does. And so I don't have that eye. I'm lost in the dark room. That whole thing is but software. I think I like to express myself in creating software that's so simple to use. You don't need a manual. You don't need instructions. And to me, making hard things simple is my way of expressing myself. So maybe, I guess in that way, I've learned that from my dad, just in a different craft.
Yes.
And then my mom, very honest, very Hawaiian.
Yeah.
I think she's Pele. Feared and loved.
Yes.
So.
I would agree. When we come back, we're going to go take a commercial break right now. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about this world record that he has. And then we're going to go right into the genesis of Paubox.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. Aloha.
Aloha, I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute. One of the things I love being, however, is the host of the weekly program on ThinkTech Hawaii called Ehana Kako, which means let's work together. I get to interview movers and shakers in our town and across the world so that you and I together can learn and to grow. Please join me every Monday from 2 to 3 p.m. or watch us on the recording www.thinktechhawaii.com. Aloha and Ehana Kako. Let's work together.
Aloha and welcome back. We're here with Ho'ala Greevy, and if you're just joining us, he is the founder of 2 software companies here in Hawaii, and we just had a great talk story about his roots, his parents, just from growing up, and the values that they taught him all the way through being a proud graduate of McKinley High Schools and part of Hawaii's public schools. I wanted to touch upon this world record that you have.
Okay.
Okay. I read about it.
Okay.
It's the you tell me the story. So I know it's out kind of point. I know you're in your kayak.
I was just trying to catch something for the Super Bowl, which was the next day, and I was targeting uku because that's just a really good fish to bring to a party. And so I was doing what I would usually do to catch an uku, and instead this pretty big hagi or triggerfish took my bait, and I brought it up, and I was like, oh man. I was kind of disappointed because usually that's, you know, I was like, I'll just get this thing out of the water so no one else catches it. And I got it, and then I called my fishing teacher, and I was like, hey, bro, this thing's kind of big. What's the record? So he looked it up, the Hawaii state record, and he told me what it was, and I was thinking, man, I think this one beats it. So anyway, I kept it on ice, got it weighed, got the Hawaii state record, and then I was like, I'll go check the world record, which is through the IGFA. And that was a bit of a process, but eventually got all the paperwork in order and got that one too. So I don't know.
So how much did it weigh?
I think it's like 16 pounds or something. And so I don't know. That thing was really ugly, but whatever.
And most importantly, how does it taste? Since you say it's like the ugliest fish.
My friends all got sick. They ate it at the Super Bowl without cleaning it. Yeah, funny. Yeah, they just threw it on the barbecue as a joke. And I guess they forgot an hour later or whatever, and they started eating it.
Right. It's Super Bowl, which means there's other elements there.
Yeah.
And then the picking happens.
Yeah. So anyhow.
So now we know, you have the world record for the ugliest fish.
For now.
For now. I don't know if there's anyone else that's has an ambition to beat your record. However, if it happens,
probably not that.
Please let us know. I wanted you to talk about your first software company, Pauspam.
Yeah.
One great name.
Oh,
right, great local name. And tell us the genesis of Pauspam.
Okay, so I came back in 2001, having worked in the Bay Area. for an email company, a startup. Linux zealot, background in email. I was doing some Linux consulting, and at the time in 2001, that was really hard to explain.
Yes.
I mean, this is when Bill Gates was still CEO. It was in the, Linux as a viable solution for businesses was very much undecided. There wasn't any such thing as the cloud as there is now. There was not Android pre-everything. And I just saw Linux as the way things should be. And I couldn't express how to get these customers to use it in their office. But when these, basically a global epidemic happened with the scourge of viruses and spam and junk mail and email. So I just pulled a few all-nighters, built a solution on Linux, and we built it in such a way that customers could subscribe to our service. We didn't have to install any software on their end, so they could continue to use their Windows products, servers and workstations. But it was, I guess, a stealth deployment of Linux. And so we got all these people using our service and using Linux without even knowing it, and I kind of liked that. And that grew the way it did, and that was a really exciting run. We've seen some consolidation in the market. I personally thought we as a society would have figured out spam filtering by now, but we haven't. So silver lining is businesses like ours are still a relevant subscription-based business. And I think what we're doing now with Paubox is even more exciting. And we're taking all the good things and all the mistakes we made with PowSpam, and I think we have a better product, a timely product, and a better team. And I've never been more excited about a software product than I am now. Well,
Right
what
on.
we have.
Right on. The PowSpam, my notes for this show got held up a bit because I couldn't get Ho'ala's, I wasn't receiving his email because it was encrypted, and apparently my own email, there's some I just set it to default. It's not like I know about encryptions. I just trust the service that I'm using that hosts my domain, that I can sign up for an email account, and I just use it. However, until you explained to me, and then I've read about PowSpam, I didn't know, like, there should be something in my settings. So I definitely want you to come and check out my email after the show.
I will continue on what I mentioned earlier. We'll get you aboard PowSpam and Paubox, and
Right on.
we'll take care of that.
Right on. I also wanted to, some data. I was telling you that for me, every morning I have at least 40 to 50 pieces of spam in my inbox, and it's not even the great kind you want. It's not even in the musubi or with eggs and rice. And I've just sort of accepted it after all of these years, going through that every day. What are some tips that that people can take? Like, what do they need to look for to stop that? Or
so pay for a filtering service is definitely the way to do it. I think what you're seeing with these celebrity iCloud hacks and all these these companies and individuals getting hacked and infiltrated, I still think email is still one of the best ways to infiltrate organizations. And I think these people were clicking on phishing attacks, and then they get the iCloud password through an email-based phishing attack. So, the ways they send and target their campaigns, it's become a highly evolved business. They know when you're opening mail, they know when you're going to check mail, and they base their delivery of spam around your sleeping habits. And that's why on the weekends it goes down, but come Monday morning it shoots way up because they know you're waking up and you're checking work email, so why not bombard you when you wake up?
Right.
And
so I was reading
it follows a sleeping pattern.
I was reading your website, and it said that the greatest volume of emails between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and therefore the phishing scam artists will email you between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and then between 2 and 4 or 2 and 6.
So the data shows they want to get you to click while you're clicking on your work email, not think about it, and make that mistake. And so some of the things we built into PowSpam recently, I don't know if you're a big Google Chrome fan.
Yes.
But so Google has a safe browsing database, which is built into Google Chrome. So if you try to visit a site in Chrome that's been compromised and is a phishing website, it'll flash that big red or orange screen.
Warning.
Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? So that's an open source database that Google allows third parties to query. And so PowSpam now, maybe as a few months ago, what we did was we said, hey, you know, there's a lot of phishing attacks going on here. How can we make our service even better? And so now, every link that's in an email that comes in for our customers, we compare that link against the Google Safe Browsing database, and if it matches up, we nuke it. So that's just another measure that we built in. I don't think a lot of providers are doing that, as far as I could tell, but we're just using open source software to make our product the best it can be based on a highly reputable source. So that's part of the game for spam filtering.
Yeah, for early adopters of the internet and email users, they're familiar with spam. We can kind of see it with our eye, except we've been teaching, you know, not just the younger generation, however, we've been teaching the kupuna to kind of adopt new technology. And so their eye is not too keen to what spam looks like. And so I constantly get my calls from the aunties, the uncles, you know, like, I click on something, what is that, you know? And so hopefully PowSpam can solve that across the board for everyone, you know, as we move forward. Because spam is still a big issue.
Yeah, email is one of the original parts of the internet. The protocol itself has not really changed too much. We think the internet, including email, needs to grow up, and we're hoping to provide thought and business leadership in that regard. But as it is today, it has not grown up, and it's just an unruly teenager. That's the way the internet is, in my opinion. It's just out of control teenager.
Yeah, I was that one day.
Yeah, well, we all were.
Maybe last week. Anyways, let's jump back to, like, so from PowSpam to Paubox.
Yeah.
I'm very fascinated by that. You mentioned the cloud. I use the cloud a lot.
Yeah.
And since doing my research with you and learning with you, I'm like, should I stop, or should I at least ask the services that I'm using? Hey, you guys got Paubox on there, you know, to protect me. I don't have the photos that the celebrities have in their iCloud. However, I did see that what you folks are servicing is the healthcare industry.
Yes.
And making sure that your clients are in compliance with the HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so tell us about that.
So what we're seeing now is HIPAA. The fines are huge. They're documented on the Health and Human Services website, hhs.gov. The fines are huge. The scope of who has to comply with HIPAA is large. And we see a gigantic opportunity to help people who have to be HIPAA compliant, but may not be the size of Queen's Hospital, but they do still need to be HIPAA compliant. For example, where my mom works, it's a social service agency. They have to be HIPAA compliant.
Okay.
Social workers, dentists, dermatologists, eye doctors, adult mental health, psychologists, psychiatrists. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's thousands of companies in the U.S. that need our help.
Home care industry comes under that?
Yes.
I can see like a big oops happening there.
Yes, and the fines are spectacular. We've seen documented cases of a single laptop being stolen from a car, leading to a $1.5 million fine. One laptop. Fines are crazy.
That's going to bankrupt the business.
Yeah, and the government's not screwing around. Of course, we have the baby boomers getting older. I don't see any sign of this trend slowing down. And what we've developed with Paubox, I think there may be a patent involved. We're really excited about it, and we think it's a seamless and enterprise-wide effective way to help people be HIPAA compliant for email.
And just through email and/or just transferring data any other way?
Sure. So we have a file sharing and file storage service similar to probably your viewers would know Dropbox.
Yes.
But however, Dropbox is not HIPAA compliant, and our service is. So we have a way to upload, share, and store your documents in a web browser in the cloud that's HIPAA compliant. And also we have a email encryption service that rides together with that, that is unlike anything I've seen on the market. And those two combinations there, I think we really want to we want to take it to as big as we can get.
I can see like the need. So you mentioned the celebrities, the absolute need for a healthcare industry. However, just even for people like me, where I just don't want my information out there or anybody to access it at all. So really, Paubox, Pau spam for anyone with an email address. You know, Paubox for anyone who wants to store data or transfer data, you know, from one person to the other, and
Yeah.
you don't want anyone else to see it.
Yeah.
Right? That's why you're transferring it in this first place. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you just put it out
Yeah.
on the internet, on Facebook or something like that. Yep.
Yeah, that's where the opportunity is. So what we think, the way I see email, like I said, email is one of the oldest protocols of the internet. And if you were to read the boring and long email specification guidelines of how email should be constructed and delivered, you'll see that the precedence, the preference is set to delivery rather than email encryption. So the way all email works now, with the exception of what we built, is it's, hey Neenz, I got this email for you. Do you want it encrypted? But if not, I'll just send it to you in clear text. That's the way all email works now. And there's some workarounds with forcing you to a browser and all these other keywords and things that I think cause a lot of friction. So all our solution is saying is, hey, you know what? If you're going to send email outside of your organization, send it to Paubox first, and we'll encrypt every single email seamlessly from all your users and all your devices. And we'll make sure that every single email is encrypted, and there's nothing extra to remember or steps to install or anything like that. And so what we're doing in a way is we're saying, hey, we understand that the email protocol is this way, but we're going to bend the rules a little bit because, like I said, we think the internet needs to grow up, and we never want to send email in clear text. That's just in the past. That we live in the Snowden age. Somebody's snooping it. That should not be the case. And we're going to guarantee the email encryption enterprise-wide. And that's what we're so excited about, is we're breaking the rules in a way, but we patch it together through clever programming and design interface so that it's seamless to the customer.
So that's very exciting for me. You know, like it's not that I don't think that anyone would be looking in, except when you talk about the geniuses that are called hackers, they just want to look at anything, right? So anyone is a target. We're going to take a commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk to Ho'ala a little bit more about Paubox, and then as well as what's the future for him and what's the future for data transfer.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of the SOWEST Hour. That's the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology at UH Manoa. It plays from 1 to 2 every Monday regular, and we include discussions with guests who are faculty, researchers, and students at SOWEST and related schools in Hawaii. Let me try that again.
Hello and welcome back. We're talking here with Ho'ala Greevy about his company Paubox, and it's getting me all excited. On the break, we just kept talking. I'm excited because it addresses this very simple issue of spam and really filtering it out, as well as protecting the information that we send back and forth to each other. And so I can see that there's integration. You know, it would be so much easier if everybody just purchased Paubox and added it to.
Means I think in 5 years, people are going to say, hey, of course email's encrypted. What are you, crazy? But right now, it's not. And a big part of email is just floating out there, clear text for anybody to see. And so we're just trying to be a little ahead of the curve, and of course make a business out of it, and really help people out and make money at the same time. And I just don't see email continuing the way it is in the indefinite future. This thing has to be encrypted. It's like if you said, oh, I'm going to go check my account balance online, and you go to your bank's website, and your bank says, hey, Neenz, you know, we'd really like to encrypt this connection, but hell, if we can't figure it out, we're just going to send it to you in clear text. Are you okay with that?
No.
So, yeah. So I think when people learn more about the way email is now, they're going to have that same attitude. They're going to say, no, that's not okay with me. I will pay to get this not like that. And so what we're seeing now is not only are we signing up customers who have HIPAA compliance issues, but we're signing up customers that just want their stuff encrypted. And they want privacy, and they deal with sensitive information that, like I said, is not HIPAA related, but it's sensitive nonetheless. And so we're starting to see a genuine need, and we're getting close to a product market fit for Paubox. And you know, if you read those blogs, if you Google product market fit, that's when you put gas on the fire, and that thing
Yes.
goes crazy. So that's what
Right.
everyone's trying to get.
Right, that's when you make the big monies. And then McKinley High School Foundation will
Well, I'd like to do that.
have
like to
even
do that.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can also see that when we talk about privacy, you know, Facebook came up against a lot of resistance for their Facebook Messenger app, you know, and I thought how simple it is. Let the people know, assure the people that there's some kind of other layer of privacy, except they never did.
Yeah.
And so people just don't use that, right? Just use, now we know, Paubox, right? Add that layer over, you know, and it's sort of like locking your screen door and then locking your inside door when you lock up the house, right? Just an extra
Yeah.
form of security.
I think people are just getting fed up with hacks and reading about their government or other governments, reading, snooping, compromising. I think that's a huge part of my analogy of, you know, I think when I was in the Bay Area from 1999 to 2001, you could consider the internet like a 4 or 5-year-old child, just kind of figuring stuff out. And now the internet's like this 13-year-old, unruly, crazy teen, and it has to grow up, it will grow up, and we'd like to be a part of that solution.
Well, as a parent of a teen and a 10-year-old, yes, it's a lot of work just to
Yeah.
kind of monitor what your children are doing. Except that extra layer, what Paubox provides for me as a parent, as a business owner, is just some peace of mind.
Yeah.
You know, and I can see that your service and you know, your forward thinking is going to pay off in the long run.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, mark my words. We've all heard it here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You'll be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh man.
Don't forget my invitation, though.
All right.
If you get there first. I want to talk about, like, so what's next for you? You as an entrepreneur here in Hawaii. I know you said you just came back. You have the liberty to really take this wherever you want. And then what do you see the future of, like, data transferring, just information? Because I'll be honest, like, at this point, there are certain clients that I have in certain meetings where I do not email, I do not text. We meet in person and have a conversation.
Yeah. Well, so maybe a month ago, Google announced they were going to give preference to websites in their search engine results that use HTTPS encryption to display their websites, the entire website. And so we've been doing this since earlier this year. There is no way you can view, communicate, or use our products across the board without encryption. We are 100% encrypted company, both on PowSpam and Paubox. And so when we saw that news, we said, okay, I think we're on the right track. And the future of data transfer, in my opinion, it has to be and it will be 100% encryption, forced encryption. So even if the end user tries to establish a non-encrypted connection, the software has to be smart enough to automatically flip it to an encrypted connection. I mean, that's just the way things should be, in my opinion.
And you know, all of these services, there's tools like Snapchat that promise to immediately delete your content, and yet months later you find out they got hacked and all that content
Yeah.
is now on someone else's server.
Yeah.
You know, putting this extra filter, again, peace of mind even for those business users to attract more consumers, build their social network bigger.
Yeah, I think all that is still trying to be figured out. I mean, we've got two-factor authentication now that people can bundle on so that their accounts aren't so easy to hack, which in this day and age I think is the best way to make sure your stuff isn't compromised. And that usually involves an app on your phone with a 6-digit code that changes out every minute. It's free from Google to use to plug in. So right now, I'd say that's probably the best way to protect yourself. I mean, look at Facebook. I can find out your birthday, your high school, your brothers, sisters. Aren't these all security questions that your bank forces you to plug in when you create your account? So I think this way of maybe we've rushed in a little bit for embracing social media, and maybe there is too much stuff out there, and maybe it'll take a couple years, or maybe more than that, to get rid of all that stuff. because that's all really stuff that can link back to you and hurt you. And there was a link on Twitter about this guy. He had like this 3-letter Twitter handle, and somebody out there wanted it, and in a day they cracked it, and they compromised his Gmail, his iCloud, just to get his Twitter account, and he got locked out. And he traced it back, and he figured because he was a kind of a well-known blogger, they pieced together all this information about him. And so, you know, he was just like, what the hell am I supposed to do? This was a really hard password, but they compromised it anyway.
Yep.
So.
It is something that I am concerned with because I myself personally do share a lot. And while I share a lot, I'm also smart about what I'm sharing, except I think about other people who are not too self-conscious about what's going out there and exactly how you can just take all this data and then basically figure out somebody's password.
Yeah.
Or get into their bank account.
Or answer the security question.
Right, because it's all there.
Yeah, that's how you'd reset it. Yeah.
Because all the information is either on Facebook or, you know, if we go all the way back on MySpace, on Twitter, on YouTube. And this next generation that's coming up, they're basically being raised on these new tools, and they're sharing it, you know, very easily.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to see more services embracing something like two-factor authentication, or even biometric authentication, where you're putting your thumb on your iPhone, which triggers an app that allows you to access your Facebook, Twitter, like on your desktop, right?
Right.
So using the smartphone to access your accounts on another screen is probably, as far as we know it, the way to go right now.
Yeah, and it's the only way to identify owner with account.
So even more so, if your phone gets stolen and somebody gets into it, oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
That's a problem.
And you know, one time I did get hacked. My PayPal account got hacked. And fortunately, I got an email first that says, "Do you really want to purchase?" I think $800 worth of items from Walmart somewhere in the United States.
Yeah.
And then, if not, call this number. And I called and I said, no, I don't want to purchase that. Except what I didn't check, and I went back after, changed my password and everything, except they had the recovery email they had changed.
To them.
To them.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was like, ha.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be smarter. And not everybody is going to be thinking of those things. And so it's better to have that extra level of protection with something like Paubox. So what's next for you? I mean, I'm listening to you, and I can see that we're on an island, you know, and the dreams, ambitions are a little bit larger than the island here, you know. So are you planning on taking this?
Well, we enjoy access to customers. I take pride in running a business that develops software based on customer feedback. I know it sounds really obvious, but you can't imagine how many times I personally have not adhered to that rule, as well as countless other companies that don't succeed. And so, you know, we have a lot of customer access here, which is Hawaii. I mean, it's just the way things work. So I really enjoy that. And I think we're going to figure out, fix a few more bugs and introduce a feature or two for Paubox, which I can kind of see the development path for next 4 to 8 weeks. And I think when we hit that product market fit, which I hope we will, and I think we will, I'm going to do what's best for the company, I'm going to do what's best for the customers, and I'm going to do what's best for the employees and investors. And I don't know if that's staying here or not. That might be going back or spending more time in the Bay Area. So we'll take it as it comes, but I like being here now. I like working with the customers here now. I think the problems customers have here mirror the problems customers have in Oregon, in Nevada,
around
in California. Yeah, HIPAA is a national concern. We're the biggest economy in the world. This is not going away. Thousands of businesses need our help, and we'd like to help them.
Right on. I just wanted to ask, I was just thinking, have you pitched our local government here? There's a movement for open data, you know, with a lot of us in the tech industry. We've been pushing for it. It's being led by some of our friends, our mutual friends. And so I can see how them employing or using Paubox would help.
Yeah, so on the PAL spam side, we have a few branches of government using it now, which have been steady, long-term customers.
Right on.
And we're trying our best, naturally, to convert our existing customer base in PAL spam over to Paubox customers. And so they're aware of what we have. And it's a little bit of a funky time right now with elections. Who's coming, who's going. But we're on the radar, and we're making sure the integrators that service them, we're also on their radar. And so I think in the next month or two, we'll have a better guidance on, as far as state government goes, whether it'll be adopted. But we've built features into Paubox specifically from meetings with our government customers and hearing what they need and building solutions around that. For example, there's different levels of encryption. And so our HIPAA customers are saying, hey, you know, 128-bit encryption isn't good enough. We need 256-bit. So we specifically designed our software to never revert to 128. It's straight 256 all the way.
Everybody gets the 256 from now
on the email encryption. It's a forced 256-bit encryption. That's just another little thing we added to Paubox to make it as an ideal fit for HIPAA-compliant entities as we could.
Right on. Okay, so we're going to close the show right now.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being
Thanks,
here.
Neenz.
I'm very excited about what can happen in the future of PAL spam, Paubox, and Ho'ala Greevy. For those of you that are just tuning in, this is Ho'ala Greevy. This is Reaching Out with Neenz Feleafine. And if you didn't know, today's show is called An Awakening with Ho'ala Greevy, and his name actually translates to awakening. I hope you've been awakened. Aloha.